And so what is the success criteria for today? It's to develop a better understanding of the rewards program, identify who would benefit from rewards, understand the online components of rewards, and develop a better understanding of explicit instruction. It's extremely important to ensure that the students who are placed in this program can access the material. And I'll go into that more later, but students need to be reading at least the third grade level, and actually rewards has said 3.5, so year 3.5 of their reading level, 60 words per minute, in order to be able to successfully use the rewards program. So we're going to start off with a little video from Anita Archer. And so before I do, this is a picture of the student edition of the rewards book. This is the red book. There's also a blue book out there that actually has the same instructional routines and so forth, that is designed more for high school students. This particular book is designed for kids between 4th grade and intermediate school. And so this is actually perfect. You could actually use the red book with high school students too, and it works the same, goes through the same material. And so let's go ahead and take a look and see what Anita Archer has to say.
You know, success stories, we are blessed with abundance. So one day I was at a high school and they were using rewards and rewards plus in a special ed class. And I did a demonstration lesson, and then I interviewed the students and just asked them, you know, what did they really profit from? What was positive in the program? Where do they see it made a difference? Okay? And like most high school students or struggling students, they're not offering a lot of dialogue, but I kept pressing them. Then I'm leaving and I'm walking out to my car, and I hear these footsteps behind me, and this kid taps my back. And he said, "Dr. Archer." And I turned around, and this student I had met, who's a sophomore, he said, "I didn't want to say this in front of my friends, but thank you, I can finally read." You get that kind of feedback. That's what all teachers want. Right? Our pay is not great, but the rewards are, and that is what we want to hear.
Get higher certificate yields than...
So it is rewarding to be able to teach kids to read. Kids feel so much pride after you've taught them the entire rewards program, because now they can read those longer words, and you feel like you've really done something, because the kids, you know, you can see the pride in their face that when they read a whole passage and they were able to read all those long words. It really means a lot to the kids that they can do that. So what is Rewards Intermediate? It is a research validated program. It's a flexible strategy for decoding long words. 80% of the words in the English language have an affix. So if you don't know what an affix is, it's an additional element placed at the beginning or the end of a root stem, and it's a prefix or a suffix. And so every 80% of the words have one. And so every decodable part of a word has a vowel sound. And so kids will be able to identify that vowel sound in each part of a word that we're breaking apart. And then close approximations can be corrected using context. And so a student might be sounding out a word and it doesn't quite sound like a real word. So what do? They make a close approximation, and we actually prompt them to do so. So it doesn't sound like a real word. So what is a real word that that word sounds like? And after a time, the teacher doesn't have to prompt them to do that any longer. Kids will automatically make close approximations. So it's also used to increase oral and silent reading fluency. And so once you've taught students the routines of how to break apart words and then read each part of the word and then piece the word together, they'll do it both orally, and then after a time, they'll also do it silently, and it will get quicker and quicker and quicker until they're doing it seamlessly. So brings us to what rewards stands for. Rewards stands for Reading Excellence, Word Attack, and Rate Development Strategies. So this is a copy of the student edition. For those of you teaching 2 sections, you will receive 40 copies of the book if you have 40 students. About half of you here have actually already contacted me and told me how many you need. I've already sent them out to you. You should have received them today. And same thing with the teacher copies and the poster sets. So those have gone out. If you have not yet filled out the survey that is sent, please fill it out. I will go down tomorrow. And if you I'm actually going to check the survey again tomorrow, and I'll send out more materials for those people who haven't yet asked for them. But please send that to me as soon as you receive word on that you're actually teaching rewards from your principal. Okay. All right. So who benefits from rewards? Rewards is designed for students who read minimally the 3.0 reading level. That's actually been increased to 3.5. And so, but what that means is, can they read 60 words per minute? And if you're not familiar with teaching reading, you may not know about a oral reading fluency assessment, but there are oral reading fluency assessments that are 1 minute long that you give a student and they read for 1 minute, and you count how many words they read correctly. If for example, they read 70 words, but 10 were wrong, then they're reading 60 words per minute. And so, because you subtract the amount of words that they could not pronounce correctly. So that's how that works. So students who also benefit from rewards are students who are ready, but struggle with multisyllabic words. And these students often read slower than their peers because they have difficulty with those multisyllabic words. Students that do not meet these requirements would benefit more from teacher-directed activities that systematically increase word identification skills, 1 and 2 syllable words. So what we're talking about is SIPS Plus and SIPS Challenge. And so what I do recommend is, if your school has not yet done so, the students that, when you look at the MAP scores, which I sent to your principals, if you would like me to send you those scores as well, I can do so. It's really important that these students are placed properly. Like I said, if we find that they are not reading at least at the 3rd grade level, they will not be successful in this program, and it's going to hold you back, and your fellows, the students in the class, it'll hold them back as well from making progress. So it's really important that the kids are ready for this, and that they have phonics skills before they come into rewards. Rewards requires kids to be able to have the phonics skills. And so if they don't have phonics skills, they need to go down to SIPS. So you can give the SIPS placement test to make sure that the students are ready for this program as well. All right. Why might you want to use rewards? Many of the new words in intermediate and secondary school materials are very difficult words. It actually starts before the 5th grade, as we're mentioning here. After 3rd grade, there's a huge gap that is created between 3rd and 4th grade, between readers and non-readers, or also students who have a large vocabulary and students who have actually a smaller vocabulary. And so from 5th grade on, the average student encounters approximately 10,000 words a year that they have never previously encountered in print. That's a lot of words. And so the longer words are often content words that carry the meaning of the passage. And so if they don't know how to read the word that carries the meaning of the passage, do they have any meaning? And the answer is no. So their reading comprehension struggles tremendously. Rewards is a program to help students who struggle with decoding, not those who cannot decode, but struggle with comprehension. And so that's to further that, I've actually included this quote from Dr. Joseph Torgerson, who says, "There is no comprehension strategy powerful enough to compensate for the fact that you can't read the words." I mean, let that sink in for a second. Makes a lot of sense, right? If you can't read the word, there is no comprehension. So the ability to easily recognize individual words allows for comprehension. So this is going to be huge for those kids who have the vocabulary, but yet can't read the word. So also, you're going to learn vocabulary in this program. So even if you don't know the vocabulary word, you will learn what the vocabulary words are. So teacher's guide. So what does the teacher's guide include? It includes an introduction. And in fact, I was kind of reviewing the teacher's guide, and I want to let you guys know a couple page numbers that I would recommend reading prior to jumping in to the program yourself, or actually to prepare. And here we go. It's F27 through F30. I would read those pages, and I highly recommend it. It's really just kind of prepping for your first couple days of instruction, making sure you have all the right materials and everything. So read those pages if you want to be better prepared in your teacher's guide. So it has an introduction. You use unit dividers, overview for each unit, 25 lessons, and they're broken up into 15 pre-skill lessons and 15 or 10, it looks like, strategy instruction lessons. And then there's an appendices as well. The lessons themselves take about 50 minutes to an hour. And so based upon your students and maybe what else you have planned in regards to the program that we've set up for you for the summer, you can either decide to break these up into like 30-minute lessons or 25-minute lessons and do one lesson every 2 days, or you can do a whole lesson in one day, but break it up, because kids at this age, as you know, they will not be able to focus doing this for 1 hour without a break. They need a brain break. So if you're going to plan for instruction for an entire lesson, which will take 50 minutes, and you're going to plan on just pushing them through, you're going to lose half of them halfway through if you don't have a break, some type of brain break activity where they get up out of their seat, do something, and then refocus. Just remember that you plan for a brain break for the kids if you're going to push through a whole lesson, because I've been in a lot of different classrooms where teachers have done it for an entire hour. Even our trainer, I've seen do it, and she did a whole hour, and it was tough after about the first half hour. The kids, they were really great for that first half hour, but after about a half an hour, then it becomes a struggle. Does anyone in this meeting have any stories related to that they'd like to share, or any experience with it? No?
Well,
Yeah.
it was grueling.
Okay.
And I'll just say that I had to just really pump it up, be very high energy myself. And I did listen to and I did pay attention to the vibe in the room, and when we needed to take breaks, or, if I decide, okay, we'll do something different. I had to be flexible, which I plan to be again this summer, because if I'm pushing this and they're not engaged and they're behaved because they have to be because of, my classroom management, I don't know that learning is taking place. So I'm going to use my professional judgment as it comes to this.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
Great. Yeah. And I'll actually show you a place to look at some training videos on how to set up that great routines and classroom management recommended by Rewards. I'll show that to you in a minute, but it is really important that there are a clear set of routines that kids follow. And you're right, you've got to have high energy, because this takes a lot of high energy, and it also takes a lot of encouragement from the teacher, because students coming into a reading intervention class, they don't like the fact that they don't know how to read, and so they'll do anything not to have to do this oftentimes. And so you really have to be very encouraging and keep a smile on your face as much as possible at all times. And we know that's hard sometimes, especially if kids are messing around, but I'll just say, stick with it, because it does pay off. All right. So the student book. It's used with explicit instruction. And what's important about that is this is a consumable book. The book is to accompany your explicit instruction. It's not a workbook. We need to keep the teach and teacher, because this is actually used in combination with the lessons that the teacher is giving. And so this whole program is an I do, we do, you do type of lesson plan, and it follows explicit routines where the teacher is teaching and then releasing the responsibility later to students. So you can look at what is included in the student edition there. All right. So now we're going to talk about the online resources. Many of you, I actually looked at today, many of you already have accounts. And again, if you don't have an account, what I have to do is I have to invite you. So until I know whether or not you're teaching this or not, what I have to have from you is I need you to fill out that survey that I sent. Once once you've sent me the response to the survey, I will invite you to the online program, and you'll be able to access all of the materials here that I'm about to show you. So that's what this looks like. Once you get in, you will have a bookshelf, and your bookshelf will show you all of the materials you have. It'll look like this. You have your posters, your student edition, your teacher edition. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on this and show you what the bookshelf looks like. So this is what is in my bookshelf here. If I clicked on that, it would just show you what you just saw a picture of. But then you can go into the units, and you can see all the units, or you can see, for example, unit 1, and it will show you a lesson PDF. This is from a PDF from lesson 1. And the good news about this is that you could go in to Kami in Google Drive, and you can display this on your overhead projector. And you can actually then in Kami, you can use the writing tools within Kami and actually use this to display and underline and circle and do all the things that you need to do on the overhead. So you can choose to do it that way, or you can also do it, on your whiteboard or with a document camera, however you want to go through your lessons. But I just wanted to remind you that all of your teacher resources are available here by unit, and so that's there. Also, we have the screening tests here. So I don't recommend the San Diego Quick here as one of the tests we're going to be using right now. What I do recommend, though, is giving students a pre and post test. It's always a good idea to find out where the kids are and then celebrate at the end of this to show how much they've learned and how much progress they've made over time. You can do that in 2 ways. You can do either the multisyllabic word reading fluency pre and post test, or you can do the passage reading fluency pre and post test. This one actually, here, let's see. This one is kids are just reading words. And so the first time you give it, obviously they're not going to know as many words as hopefully the second time they do it. And so you're going to see the progress that way. The second way is to, give them the reading fluency test. And so they're going to read, for example, you're going to time them, and they're going to read for 1 minute, and they're going to read as many words as they possibly can. They've done the counting for you. This is how many words there are per line up to this point, for example. If they get 3 wrong, then this student got a 94 if they read up to that line. So you don't have to count every single word. But I prefer this one because it gives me more information. It gives me the rate of their reading. It also gives me an idea of how well they're able to read those longer words as well. So that's what I like about that one. All right. Then we have charts and posters.
Really fast before you
Yeah.
go on, is there, I'm going to have some kids who were in the program last year, and is there another assessment that I can use besides that? I mean, I don't know if they'll remember from the last year or not, about the whole car and all of that. So
that doesn't matter actually so much actually. So if it doesn't matter whether they've read it before or not, because if they can recognize it and read it, they can read.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? If they can sound it out, it's going to be you're fine. It's if they can't read, you're going to know right away that they're not able to piece those words together. Okay. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But no, these are the only tests here. So sorry about that.
No problem.
You can find others if you're worried about that, though.
No, sure. I just thought if you had some, I would use it, but it's fine. Yeah. I'll use the same one.
Okay. All right. This is where I was going to show you that there's some training. So there's product training and there's mini course of instruction. So the product training is if there are certain areas that you kind of want to really go into more depth about, you can go over here, give yourself some more training. There are, instructional routines trainings for different parts. So if you're like, oh, I really want to know how to do that, I didn't understand it from the book and the explanations, you want more information, you can go here and get some more video training on that particular skill that you're looking for. So just want to let you know that's here if you're interested in doing that. Okay, so those are your digital resources. There are some additional resources you can look for here that if you're interested, and I'll just let you're going to have 7 minutes to either watch a video or peruse these materials. And so I'm going to let you guys do that at that particular time. And so moving on a bit here. All right. So just one more thing about materials and displays. Just make sure that you have a way to display the content in your classroom, whether it be and that you can write on it. So it's got to be either an interactive whiteboard. You need to be able to project onto something, either a whiteboard or a screen, and either have a document camera or do it, like I said, on Cami. So just make sure that you have that capability in your classroom before you begin. All right. So we talked about the pre-test, post-test, and there's that. So, all right. There's a picture of me and my son this summer. It's funny, my son's grown about 6 inches since then. Thank you for your responses. Rewards instructional procedures. Okay, so now we're really going to talk about the program and how to teach explicitly. So as I said before, we do teach explicit systematic instruction. That's a really important concept, because when we teach the routines, the students are taught those routines every single lesson, and they internalize them. And it's one of the most important parts of the program is to not do your own thing. If you don't teach this program with fidelity, it does not transfer, because if you're doing a different thing all the time, kids don't learn the routine and they're not able to do it when you're not there. So it's really important that you actually follow the routine. This is why this is successful, is because after a little while, they're not going to need you any longer in order to go through that routine to break apart the words, and they can do it on their own. And that's what we want. We want to release that responsibility to themselves so that they can read the words on their own. So when we are teaching, we give elicit frequent responses. So we're listening for the students. They corally respond to you when they're saying words out loud. And the reason for that is because if you call on one student, how many students are answering? One student. And then we don't know whether or not all of the students are able to read the word or saying or pronouncing it correctly. So when kids corally respond, the one or the two students who don't say it correctly, they stand out in the crowd. But you're not saying, oh, Johnny, you said that wrong. No, instead you've heard it. You say, okay, let's say that again. And you pronounce the word again for them, the whole class, and then the whole class will then pronounce the word again. So you're giving corrective feedback. And that's what in everything and you know this, in all of our teaching, the best thing we can do for students is give corrective feedback to, and that's what expert learning is. It's funny I'm sure you guys have heard about the 10,000 hours concept, that if you do anything for 10,000 hours, you become an expert at it, right? Well, that's true, but it's only true if one thing is included in that. If you have expert feedback, you will become an expert. So I could go out golfing for 10,000 hours and I will not become good unless I have expert feedback, someone correcting my errors. I have to have someone correcting my errors if I'm going to become good. And that's the same thing with the reading. So we need to carefully monitor responses and provide feedback. We need to maintain a brisk pace. We don't. So as I said before, you might repeat something once, maybe twice, but then you move on because things get repeated anyway. So you don't want to stick on one topic for too long. You move forward and they'll get it. Don't worry. This is one of those things that it is going to circle back and pick back up on some of the same sounds again. So don't worry if they didn't get it necessarily that first or second time you do it, they're going to get it again. So provide judicious practice for the students. All right. Explicit reading instruction. So it's teacher led. It's research-based. It's a research-based program, and so are their practices research-based. And you make deliberate decision-making also within the instruction versus the practice. And so this is what your predictable lesson structure looks like. And so this is the 4 C's of instructional routines. What they stand for is clear, consistent, concise, and choral response. This goes nicely with our explicit teacher-led instruction. Here we are making sure our lesson is clearly stated for students, allowing the message of our instruction to be delivered without getting lost. And it also ensures that every student is engaged and responsive every time. So activities like popcorn reading are not as effective. The anxiety it produces aside, students are not engaged the whole time. So this graphic shows us that just because it is teacher-led, it doesn't mean teachers do all the talking. Rewards has you respond to students and instruct the students in the same way in every lesson. So students are asked to pronounce words the same way in each lesson. So students do the work to train their brains to develop independent reading behaviors. So that's really important, that students are the ones who are doing the thinking and the talking. So yeah, as I said, the students learn the routine, and the routine is important. Okay.
I have the gift today of talking to you about explicit instruction. Explicit instruction simply is instruction that is quite direct, it is unambiguous, with the goal that the students would get it, would understand it, and would learn. We have a lot of confusion around the term explicit instruction, so let me sort of augment and add to that. One question I'm often asked is, wouldn't it be more motivating for students to learn it on their own, to discover it, to use authentic problems to discover it? And it's as if we have set up a total dichotomy between explicit instruction and discovery, but we really should view it as a continuum. And when we look at the research on instruction, we learn what are the attributes of that continuum. For example, if you are teaching children that are novices, that have just never learned this body of knowledge in the past, it appears that they do much better if we explicitly teach them the information, whether it's knowledge or skills or strategies, that we teach it. If they are learning a body of knowledge that they've not learned in the past, they're brand new to algebra, they are new to decoding of words, then they really benefit from very explicit instruction. So those two things, when the student is a novice, when the knowledge is new, explicit instruction would be desirable. But then after you've gained lots of information, you've gained lots of skills, then discovery is much more a viable option, but only after you've had explicit instruction. So one of the things that I also would be reminded of is the research. If you happen to be a special ed teacher, an interventionist, and you are working with struggling students, we definitely know that they are going to gain more with very explicit instruction than discovery. You know, if they had discovered it, they would not have been struggling. And so we need to have very explicit instruction for them. And what would that mean? Well, we could actually take explicit instruction and put it into two areas. One is the design of the instruction, and the other is the delivery of the instruction. And the design of the instruction means that we pick important content to teach them, we break it down into obtainable pieces, but then our lessons are organized so that more learning could occur. For example, I often talk about 3 major steps in teaching children skills and strategies, where I do demonstration, guided practice, checking for understanding. I do it, we do it, you do it. And many of the skills and strategies we teach would follow that pedagogy. But it also means that the students are not only directly taught it, but they have practice. And actually, I'm going to tell you, my concern is often that we're not giving adequate practice. I have constantly hear people say, well, you know, Anita, that is just drill and kill, drill and kill. And I can tell you, we have no reported incidents of children dying of practice. Instead, look at the research, the abundant research from cognitive science and from learning on practice. The students need deliberate practice where they're practicing with a purpose. They need practice that is spaced over time, not all in one session. And they need to retrieve information in that practice. So it's a combination of very explicit instruction with I do it, we do it, you do it, followed with deliberate and spaced practice and retrieval. But here's what I've noticed. I've had the great blessing of teaching for 52 years and do demonstrations all throughout every year. And what I have noticed is that students need better delivery skills than we've done in the past. For example, all instruction needs to be interactive. I say something, you say something, I write something, you write something. All explicit instruction would be very interactive, with students actively engaged throughout the entire lesson. And we would give them, we'd monitor and watch their responses, give them feedback on the responses, and we would maintain throughout the whole lesson a very perky pace. So those are some of the attributes of having very explicit instruction. And we know that then I set you up for your ability to solve authentic problems. I set you up for being successful. I set you up to generalize information to other situations. But this means we've got to keep the teach and teacher. And we have to provide the teaching that our students need. So let us never forget the research on explicit instruction. Because if learning is our goal, then a lot of explicit instruction needs to occur there. Bless you in your career. May you thrive as an educator.
The way that the lessons are delivered. And so that brings us to what is taught in rewards. Wait a second. No, sorry. So students will gain strategies to decode multisyllabic words. That's the whole point. There are overt behaviors and covert strategies. And so obviously at the very beginning, you're going to be teaching these overt behaviors to students. You're going to have them circle prefixes. You're going to have them circle the suffixes of words. So obviously we're going to teach them what those are. We're going to underline the vowels in words because they're going to have to be able to do these things in order to separate the words. They're going to say the parts of the words and they're going to make it a real word. And so you're going to go over and over and over those strategies lesson after lesson for 16 lessons, and they're going to learn those strategies. And it's going to become part of their internal knowledge base to be able to do on their own. And then after they learn how to do that, though, they're going to not really need those strategies anymore, those overt behaviors. They're going to start to develop these covert strategies. They're going to look for prefixes in words and suffixes in words and vowels in words, and they're going to do that silently in their own mind. They're going to say the parts of the words in their own mind, and they're going to say the whole word in their own mind. They don't have to say it out loud any longer, and they're going to make it a real word in their own mind. So they're going to think, oh, that doesn't sound like what I just pronounced. What's a real word that I know that sounds like that? Or what could it sound like other than that? And so those are the strategies that the kids are going to learn by using the rewards program. And so this will also help students to develop fluency, word fluency, reading word parts and words in general, sentence and passage reading. And so if you look in your teacher's edition, there's a great little chart that shows you that you go from learning how to read words to learning how to read sentences to learning how to read passages. There are repeated readings, which provide cold timing practice, hot timing. So kids, when they read a passage more than once, they're learning the vocabulary within that passage. And then obviously because they know the words better and they can pronounce the words better, the second, third time, they'll read the passage more quickly and have better comprehension as a result. And that's the whole idea behind Reader's Theater. Those of you who are, you're all teaching this program this summer. Reader's Theater really is it's totally research based, and the repeated readings that the kids are doing is really helping their fluency. So please do not cut that out of the program. Reader's Theater is a huge help to our students. So they also learn word families. So when you're teaching the kids the base, the prefix, the base, and the suffix of words, what you're really teaching, because the prefix and the suffix can change, but the root stays the same. And so they're changing the prefixes and suffixes, and they're actually, and sometimes they're learning 5 words when it's really the same base word, right? Because they're learning those word families. And so that's really important that this program actually teaches them that. It teaches them vocabulary, like I just talked about, the prefixes, suffixes, and academic vocabulary. If you have any questions, contact me at jason.crab@sausd.us.